So today, as you know, we have the Washington County Search and Rescue Team here with us. So I have two brothers. My oldest brother and my youngest brother are members of the Search and Rescue here in southern Utah. I also have an uncle who's been doing it as well for quite many years. They give so much of their time to this, and it's for such a great cause. They have so many great stories and the things that they do. For example, right now, my brothers, every single one of their weeknights and their Saturdays, they've been giving to the Search and Rescue, and they've been out on many calls, very involved. In fact, earlier this year, I've been very interested in giving all of it myself, and they said, you know what? Sorry, Greg, you can't be involved because you can't get away from your business like these individuals can. They're very busy as well. My oldest brother is the GM of MacArthur Welding, and for him to get away is very difficult, but he does. He gives back to this community. So really great organization, giving a lot of time and doing a lot of good here in southern Utah. And so with that, I'd like to turn the time over to Lieutenant Brixby. He's from the Washington County Sheriff's Office. And so I'd like to welcome him to come up. Turn the time over here.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank the Chamber for having us this afternoon. It's always nice to get the opportunity to share with the community some of the things the Sheriff's Office is involved in. As I said, my name is Lieutenant Nate Brooksby. I'm over the Investigations Division at the Sheriff's Office. Real quick, I want to do a brief overview of some of the aspects the Sheriff's Office is involved in the community before I introduce Deputy Daryl Cashin. So in general, I want to talk about some of the responsibilities statutorily that some of the law enforcement community has here in our area. So when we talk about jurisdictions here in Washington County, we have federal entities include FBI, DEA, ATF. At the state level, we have Highway Patrol. So those are the individuals that you'll see typically on I-15 handling crashes, enforcing traffic law. And then the Sheriff's Office, we're in charge of the unincorporated areas of the county, which makes up about 35,000 people spread throughout 2,500 square miles. And then you have the municipality police, the police department, St. George, Hurricane, Washington, Santa Clara, Ivins, Laverican, Springdale, or some of the other agencies that we work with in the county. The Sheriff's Office has some unique responsibilities, one of which is operating the jail. Within the Sheriff's Office, we have two separate divisions, a Corrections Division and a Patrol Division. Our Corrections Division runs the daily operations of the jail. Our facility houses about 500 inmates, and just that daily maintenance operation, maintaining order, is a huge task. So every day, we make 1,500 meals. We have to deal with medical and mental health issues, which becomes very problematic, and we end up with some unique situations in the facility. Fortunately, we have some great staff out there to help deal with some of those issues. Also in the Corrections Division, we have things like transport, deputies that have to transport inmates back and forth to court. We have bailiffs that do court security in our state and county courts. And then outside of that, in the Patrol Division, we have our General Patrol deputies that you'll see out patrolling the unincorporated areas of the county and assisting other agencies in the county. So a lot of what we do is helping other agencies out within the county. And then we kind of have our Specialized Division, which would be our investigations. That is our Detective Division. We have deputies in the Drug Task Force. We have deputies in a FIST, which is like a Fraud Identity Protective Unit, and then of course Search and Rescue. Search and Rescue is one of the disciplines we're very proud of, primarily because it's made up of volunteers in the community. These individuals have special skill sets, training, and equipment that they've been willing to put forth and help better our community. A lot of tourism and hiking. A lot of visitors come to Washington County, and this has been an unusual year for Search and Rescue as far as the call volume they've received so far. So with that, I'd like to introduce Deputy Daryl Cashin. He is our only paid Search and Rescue member. Again, all the others, about just over 70 plus, are all volunteers in the community. So Deputy Daryl Cashin.
If you can't hear me, just let me know. I have a tendency to want to move around a lot too when I'm like doing presentations. Before I get going on this, I want you all to ask me questions if you want to know about a particular part of search and rescue or what we do or a particular rescue. I will be happy to give you more details on what was done or what happened, but I can't give you any information as far as like who we rescued or who we recovered. So, but feel free to just stop me, ask questions. My lieutenant's here to stop me from talking too much. I'm a hostage negotiator, so I have a tendency to know how to talk for a very long time. So Washington County, what's that?
I said, that's a good job for me then.
Yeah. I have a reputation, but I'm not so sure it's good when it comes to this. Washington County Sheriff's Search and Rescue. Our motto is so that others may live. Most of the members have been on for a lot of years, but we are bringing on some newer members, and it's just kind of an ongoing process that happens. You lose some older members, you bring on newer members so it can keep on going. And it's been going for 40, 50 years, probably longer. Make sure I get this thing working right. Okay, Washington County Search and Rescue is comprised of approximately 73 citizens of the community that are highly trained and dedicated to rescue efforts. Search and Rescue is a non-sworn volunteer division of the Washington County Sheriff's Office. They act under the authority and jurisdiction of the sheriff, and that is by statute, which is right there. Utah Statute 1722-2. This is part of the sheriff's general duties that he shall, doesn't say he may or he could, it's pretty much mandating it. He shall manage search and rescue services in his county. So that's where the authority comes from, and it's an obligation that he has to make sure that people are rescued. This is just a little bit of a humor in there. Hopefully it doesn't happen for real. I know it's going to be difficult for you folks over here to see it, so if you feel like you want to move, go ahead. What is search and rescue? Definition of search and rescue. Search is defined as looking for an overdue or lost subject whose location is unknown. That's a search. A rescue is defined as removing that subject from the hostile environment. Okay, so we're taking someone and removing them back to where it's safe. We do quite a bit of agency assist. It's defined as providing assistance to medical and or law enforcement agencies. Those are done usually on a case-by-case basis, depending on what we're dealing with. The functions of SAR, and that's, I'm going to start abbreviating. SAR is search and rescue. It's just, I'm so used to using SAR. Last is we locate, okay? It's the act of looking for or pinpointing. We access, so it's finding how to get where they're at once we have located them. Stabilize them. So if they're injured or if they're on a cliff, we want to get them stable, and then we transport them. And by that, we mean we transport them back to, if they're injured, back to an ambulance, back to a helicopter, okay, or back to their vehicle at a trailhead. Sometimes we carry them a very long distance. It usually takes quite a few guys to do that. But it really works. It works well, and these members train to do these four things. I have actually seen something similar to that happen, but not with a helicopter. Locking keys in a vehicle once you get the patient back there. And it was an ambulance, so. Okay, the teams are broken. We have 5 teams. Actually, we have 6 because we do have a canine, but right now we only have 1. And I'm going to kind of go through each team. There's some photos in here. I'll probably explain a few of them to you. But we're basically broken into 5 teams, which is a little different than most search and rescues. If you go to other counties, they have 30 members of search and rescue, and they do all the disciplines. In other words, anything that they are asked to do in whatever rescue situation. Here in Washington County, we've kind of specialized. So we have 2 ground teams, an east and a west. We have a high angle team, a swift water team, a dive team, and then we have our canine element, and then we also have, as of this year, we've put a medical element in that. So, and I'll touch on each one of these as I get into it a little bit further. So this kind of gives you a rundown of what the teams are. Now, many of our SAR members are on more than one team. They might be on west ground and high angle, or dive and swift water. So they'll take on 2. Some of them, a few, have taken on 3 disciplines. But what it does, it gives us more time to focus on those disciplines so they can get better and better at them. Ground teams, they primarily search on foot with ATVs, 4x4s, and snowmobiles. That's what they primarily do. They do specialize in tracking. They take man tracking classes, how to read signs of if someone's walked through there, they can actually read and start tracking them. They may use canine or air support, and primary search includes wilderness and urban. Now, what I mean by urban is a lot of our agency assists. If there's an Alzheimer's patient that's walked away from a facility here in St. George or Washington, or a juvenile that's endangered, that's run away from one of these youth homes, a lot of times those agencies will call us and say, hey, can you send us some manpower? We need help looking for this subject. So we will go and help them in an urban environment try and locate that subject. Okay, primarily we deal with non-urban, but we will do things like that. And we've done quite a few of them. Typical ground calls are overdue or lost hikers, medical assist, motorists stranded in mud or snow. That happens a lot on Kolob for some reason. And a lot of that's due to people going, well, I want to take the scenic route, so they punch that into the GPS. GPS tells them that they can go over that mountain. You'd think after they hit the first snow drift that they would turn around, but it doesn't usually happen. It can't get any worse, and they keep going. So, and urban searches for missing children or elderly persons. One good thing about all these volunteers is I can set off one page and I can have 30 people in about 20 minutes. So it's a lot of manpower very quick. And they're trained on how to look and how to search. So this is carrying somebody out that actually is injured. It was on a search many years ago. This is before I was the liaison. But they used a little trailer. And just understand, the trailer and the ATV, that belongs to the search and rescue members. That's their own personal gear that they brought. And this is hauling them out so we don't have to actually carry them. I don't know if any of you have ever carried a human being on a backboard for very long, especially in rough country. It's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of time. What would be a 10-minute walk could be a 30-minute hike with them, carrying them. This is Snow Canyon, obviously, carrying an injured person down off the hill, and they're assisting the medical. You can see EMS personnel there. You notice all the orange shirts? That's what we used to wear. We found out there was a problem. Because when you get up on red rocks, you can't see them. So the sheriff changed to the bright, there's like a lime green or a bright yellow, a safety yellow. And now you can see them when they're on the hillside. They really stick out. This is a lot what we deal with Kolob, a lot of it. And I don't know how people get stuck like that, but they do it. There's a MacArthur right there. That's Dusty. You see the front of his Jeep. Do you notice anything funny about the front of that Jeep? Has a gas can on it, huh? We were out searching for a gentleman who got stuck, was out there for probably well over 24 hours on West Mountain. This is out Mataqua Road. And we were out searching. We probably searched for 7 or 8 hours till we found him. He was on foot. But while we were out there, Dusty had a problem. His gas tank his engine quit taking gas. So he took a gas can and dripped it right into the carburetor. So he could continue the search and get back to the IC. So these guys are very ingenious. He came driving up with that, and I go, what is going on with that? And he explained it to me, and I was thinking, I'd never thought of that. So that's how he got back. Besides that, he didn't want to have to call in and say, I need rescue. This one over here is on Zen Trail. This was a mountain biker, went head first. The SAR commander and myself got there first. We actually went as far as we could on a Jeep trail, had to hike a quarter mile, treated him medically before the medics showed up. We stabilized him, carried him back to St. George Fire's six-wheeler there, and found out later he had 2 fractures in his neck. So it was probably a good thing that we instituted the medical program we have, so we know what we should and shouldn't do. There's another stuck vehicle, get a lot of those. And it'll be like 80 degrees down here, right? And up on Kolob, there you go. It's Boyd Barney looking into a chasm down there. That's the high angle stuff. And you'll not find me doing it. I have an insatiable fear of heights. The gentleman that got stuck I was telling you about, that was out there for 24 hours, that's his vehicle. Okay? It's not going anywhere. And a lot of times we'll assist people in trying to get their vehicles out. You know, once we rescue them, we'll try and help them out. There was no way we could get that vehicle out. So it was pretty much up to him, and I think that was on Brigham Young University property out there. So I think they helped him. Okay, high angle and mountain rescue. These gentlemen, primarily search mode is on foot, climbing and ropes. They specialize in rope and rescue and extractions. They may use air support. Primary search areas are steep mountainous terrains and ledges. Now, like I said, this is where I stay at the incident command. I will not hike in. I don't do it. They work on overdue, lost, and injured hikers, ledged up hikers. You heard that term a lot, they're ledged up. And it's because they usually get down on a cliff and then they can't climb up, but they can't get down. People that have fallen, we've had a lot of that this year. Medical assist and body recoveries. Unfortunately, that is the downside of the job. You do have to deal with that. So as you can tell, this is an older picture. You can see the guys in orange, right? Okay. And this is them doing a rappel, getting down to somebody, and then raising the victim up. You can see a Stokes basket. I know it's really hard, but there's a little Stokes basket that they're raising. Again, going down into a canyon. I don't know how these guys do it, because I couldn't. Obviously, they have to have the proper gear. So the helmets, the rigging, the harnesses, they all carry in packs with them. It's what they call a day pack, but it also has a set of personal ropes and personal carabiners and gear in it, and that they all purchase themselves and then go in. This photo is probably one of the more famous ones. Most of you may have seen it with the UHP chopper up on that little pinnacle up there. Gentleman that had fallen, he was there for, I think it was overnight, and he was in real bad shape, and the only way to get rescuers there was that helicopter, picking guys up, taking them up, dropping them off, going back down, back and forth until they had enough they could get to the victim, do a lower, down back to the helicopter, put him on and get him off. Most of the rescues, my wife has a tendency to say, you got pitched out, how long are you going to be? I don't know. But I don't think I've had any of them that I've actually gotten on scene and we've set up that have been less than 3 hours. Because it just takes that time to mobilize. And I've been on some that have lasted 7, 8, 10, all night long the other night. Okay, now you can see the contrast with the new shirts, right? Works a lot better. This one was in Johnson Canyon earlier this year. Gentleman fell about 40 feet inside the canyon, in between rappels, and they had to do 2 small lowers, and then this is a 200-foot lower, bringing him down. We're down at the bottom to treat him, and then we had to hike him 20 minutes to a helicopter because it could not get in there. Yes. Yes, he was alive. He was in pain, but he was alive. And this search itself took 5.5 to 6 hours. From the time we got the call So we got into him, got the patient, got him lowered, got him hiked out into the helicopter. So it does take a little bit of time, and you have to be prepared to stay. You might be in there for a long time. You might even be there overnight. So you always want to be prepared. When these guys go in, they are prepared that they could stay overnight if they had to. I'm not sure which one this is probably before I was on there. But they're doing a litter, they're bringing a litter up on top, probably do a lower. This one here is Life Flight coming in. We were up on a ridge line. This is earlier this year in Red Cliffs. Gentleman fell probably 50 feet, but it was more of a rolling down the side thing. And we didn't know if we were going to get him in. And what they did what's called a hot load. Anybody heard that term before? A hot load is the helicopter comes down, and this gradient is like this. And it comes down, he sets down very carefully, keeps the helicopter running the whole time. And the medics get out, they go over to the search and rescue members and the patient, check them real quick, everybody lifts them up, goes over, stays low, obviously, puts them in the helicopter, they back away and they take off. They never shut down the whole time. Obviously, we have used Life Flight quite a bit, but we have found places that we can't get them into. We just can't. K9, this is Mike Thomas. He's the one guy that we have with the K9. He can deploy out of helicopters. The dog seems to have no problem riding in a helicopter. And dog's good at tracking people. They're scent. He's a scent dog. This was a training where somebody was buried under the snow and the dog found him. With dive team, primary search mode is scuba. It's tended. Any of you guys divers in here? Any recreational divers? Do you ever dive alone? We do. Every single time. We dive alone on a tended line. A line hooked to us, back to a tender. Specialize in underwater rescue, recovery, and crime scenes. We may use sonar, depending on how wide our search area is. Primary search areas are lakes and slow-moving waters. We have searched for lost children out at the lakes. Luckily, they've all been found, but we have been called to many. Missing swimmers, drownings, boating accidents, and triathlon water support. The dive team and Swift Water provide all the water safety for Ironman and 2 triathlons. At Ironman this last year, I think we had between dive members, Swift Water, search and rescue, and volunteers, we had over 100 people we managed just for the water support. So it's a little bit of an undertaking, but the guys enjoy doing it. They want to make sure nobody's gotten hurt or injured. This is where we do this every year. We go in a pool and we go through all our basic skills. So this is them going through all their basic skills, their hand signals. This one here, I believe, was an actual rescue. Or I mean a recovery, I can't say a rescue. Dive team doesn't really do a lot of rescue. By the time we're called, it's usually a recovery. I believe this one was up at Barker Reservoir, and that's in the middle of the state, well, over in Garfield County. This one here is a gun lock. This was a real recovery. Obviously, we use a lot of support with state parks. We do have our own pontoon boat that we use. That is what our sonar looks like. So when you're scanning, you can actually see detail, but it's from the side. So you're looking from the side at something. So you see the little rocks, and you'll actually see tree outlines, and you can actually see a tree because it casts a shadow beyond it. And that you're looking for the shape of a person, if that's what you're looking for, or a boat. Oh, went the wrong way. This one here is gun lock. This was several years ago. Obviously, you can see by the orange shirts. This is a young man went over into the falls inland underneath. And the hydraulics of that water coming over those rocks took him and just held him under until he was drowned. And there's a lot of obstruction in there, a lot of trees, a lot of branches and things, so it takes a while. And one thing with dive is, I always hear, is what's taking you guys so long? Well, if we already know the victim's not viable, we are not going to be in a hurry. We're gonna make sure we get everything covered and do it right. This one here was also at Barker, and this is, Barker Reservoir is a small reservoir at 9,000 feet over in Garfield County. And I think the whole thing might be 15 feet deep. And you can't put a motorboat on it, so they actually had to paddle our divers out to where this subject was. We had just finished training in Cedar City when we got the call, and we do a lot of help, or a lot of assistance to other counties, especially the dive team. So we'll get calls from Sevier County, Garfield County, Beaver County, Paiute County, hey, can you send your dive team? And the sheriff is absolutely. And these guys will leave their jobs and go. Swiftwater is comprised of operations and technician level personnel. They are shore-based, we do shore-based swiftwater rescues, boat-based in-water rescues, and low-angle rope rescues. Everybody's seen the flooding around here. How many of you want to jump in it? And anybody want to jump in? I look forward to it. It's, you got to know what you're doing, but if you know how to read that water and you have the safeties in place, it's not, I mean, it is dangerous, but it's not as bad as what you would think. Deal with persons stranded in flooding situations, in-water vehicle rescues and recovery, river searches for missing persons, and assist resupply of communities cut by flooding. So if a community got cut off, we can actually transverse that river, set up a high line, and then get supplies across. Okay? You recognize that flooding, right? I hope it doesn't happen again, but it probably will. That's the Santa Clara. That was the Santa Clara where it came down and took those homes along that side. At that time, we didn't have a swiftwater team. But Sheriff Pulsifer really was, after this flooding, we need to have a team that's capable of doing that. And so he really pushed for it and made it happen. So that's why the swiftwater team came about, was because of his pushing and, you know, people like you and civic groups volunteering, you know, time and equipment. And we got equipment donated, we got money donated for the training of it, because normally in our budget, it's not really fit. When you're trying to put together a whole team, you can spend $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 pretty quick. So, this is some of our swiftwater training we did less than a month ago up in Zion National Park. There's actually a guy underneath. See the guy sitting in the middle? There's a guy underneath that ledge. Okay, he's our victim. It was only training. Okay, the guy is one of our people, but he's underneath that ledge, and that's due to when that water comes over and it sits and churns and it digs out. So we were doing practices of how to extract somebody from a hydraulic. Okay, and that's what they were doing. And obviously there's ropes tied to both sides of the rescuer, so they can move him side to side, lower him, raise him, and then we have one down below so he could pull him straight out if he needed to. Again, this is a little bit further down. We were doing a simulation of somebody being stuck in the river on a rock, lowered down a rescuer, grabbed him, pulled him up. And then to one side, you kind of swing him to one side. The EMS program that we started, Washington County Sheriff's Office received Utah licensing as an advanced quick response agency. We, as part of that licensing, to every search and rescue, we send at least one licensed EMR, which is an emergency medical responder, or EMT, emergency medical technician, and one advanced emergency medical technician, paramedic, or nurse will respond to all search and rescues in Washington County. That is not only to treat the victim, even if they're a lost subject, we still need to have medical there because we don't know if anyone's going to get hurt while we're there. It's also to help our own people, because we have had people twist ankles and fall, and so we can kind of provide that first level of medical, and then if we need transport, we'll call for a transport agency if they need to go to the hospital. It provides us with advanced medical treatment for subjects and SAR personnel, and transport of patients is by EMS agency of jurisdiction, so it depends on where we're at in the county. like I told you, when we transport people, when I talk about transport, we take them from wherever we find them, if they're injured, to the nearest helicopter or to the nearest ambulance. That's what we do, and at that point, they take over treatment. But we've seen a need, and so we've tried to fill that. Obviously, at the fires, we haven't had any for many years, thank goodness. A lot of times, search and rescue will be activated to help block roadways, bring in supplies, even to evacuate if we had to. Okay, so they spend a lot of time, and they donate their time to this. Out at the sand dunes, this is basically an agency assist for medical. Subject rolled their ATV, and it's really hard to access. You can't take an ambulance in there. You either got to hike in the sand, or you got to have an off-road vehicle that can go in the sand. And most of my guys will carry in medics if they need it to help them. This was down in a canyon, a slot canyon, where they actually lifted this subject up. He had fallen in that canyon, was injured. We've had several calls where we recovered a gentleman out of a mine shaft this year. We've gone into an old mine shaft up by Leeds because somebody saw some suspicious stuff in there, so we hiked out there and went in there and checked it out. Didn't find anything. So these guys have to train for multiple disciplines. It's not just the high angle, but it's going in confined spaces too. And you have to be conscious of gases that could be down there or other dangers. This is actually on a fire. This is all their vehicles sitting out there, all their ATVs. This is one thing everybody would like to have, is a lift. If you look at the helicopter, that's a life flight helicopter, but that has an actual lift system on it. The one we currently have down here does not, but I know they are seriously looking at it. When you have someone critically ill or sick in a slot canyon, and like I told you on the guy before, it was 5.5 hours to get him out, that would have come in real handy. Because they could have lowered down. The SAR members still have to climb in there, but they can get in there, get him packaged up, lower that down, hook him up, and get that patient out much quicker. They will land on the sand dunes depending on where it's at. It's just the type of aircraft that they fly versus classic. It has skids. Life Flight has wheels. Life Flight's bird's bigger, but it can shut down quicker. So there's all these little things, and I've been trying to learn it from the helicopter pilots. Where can you go and where you cannot go? So I know when I'm out there, I know if we can use that bird or not. So. And I can always call them and ask. They were very generous last night when I called on the search last night and said, hey, could you donate us an hour, carry a couple of my guys in? They said, absolutely. Give us GPS coordinates, we're on our way. So as long as they're not busy transporting someone, they're willing to help us. Okay, a little bit of the nuts and bolts of it. Search and rescue operates on about a $20,000 budget from the sheriff's office and on donations from private individuals and organizations. The $20,000 budget, sometimes, some years it's a little bit more. If we ask for specific equipment or specific items and it's available in the budget, they will normally give us a little bit more. But this is operations. This is to operate for rescues. When you have a lot of rescues like we've had, you're looking at food, you're looking at fuel, you're looking at minor supplies, small supplies, things that you need to make that happen. Replace gear that gets damaged, replace gear that gets stolen, or not stolen, left on the hill. The one in Red Cliffs, there was a 200-foot rope and a couple carabiners and a few things that had to be left there. It was too risky to send a human being back to get them. So those things are replaced by this fund. Okay. In 1997, Utah State Senator John Ballantyne sponsored a bill to help reimburse search and rescue teams for expenses from searches and collect statistical data for the state. From 1998 to 2013, the fund distributed $3.5 million back to the counties. And it's only really a fraction of what it cost the counties. That was statewide to do search and rescues. 2013, the fund paid out $270,000. 41% of that money went for equipment, 28% went for search expenses, 31% for training and other expenses. Washington County received back $16,400 that year. Now understand, they work on a different, we work on a calendar year on our budget, they work on the state's, so it's July through June. So I don't have the 2014 yet because the state hasn't actually closed it. And they won't for another month or two. So it seems like it's a little bit behind, but that's why. Washington County conducted 44 SAR missions in 2014. We did 44 missions last year. That's between all the teams. Since January 1st of 2015, this year, we have already conducted over 50. So it's been a huge increase. I've had many people ask me why. Why is it? Is it the weather? I don't know. Yes.
You, maybe a year ago, when Lieutenant Ripsky went out, for that exploit, the bombs that were found, or the leftover explosives, was that a search and rescue?
No.
Yep.
No, that would not be considered a search and rescue. That would fall under the explosives, as an explosives call. It would be a law enforcement call. These are, and understand it, it's, if we go out on somebody that's passed away, or they, you know, I'll give you an example. The other night, everybody heard about the lady that drove into the lake, right? Okay. We got that call. I page out the dive team. We get all our ducks in a row, get all our equipment, get it all out there. That is a search and rescue. As far as my team is concerned, it's a search and rescue call out, but it is a law enforcement incident, okay, because there is a dead body there. Once we discovered that there was a body in the car, it is now a law enforcement incident. So it can change. It could start as a search, end up as law enforcement. It could start out as law enforcement, and usually will remain that way because we don't take those things over. But what I'm saying is all dead bodies have to be investigated, and that's not what search and rescue does. We will find them, we will locate them, we'll extract them out of the lake. But once they are out of that water, that vehicle and that person in that vehicle belong to the law enforcement agency of jurisdiction. And we pretty much go hands off. Now, we will do a report on it, everything we saw, everything we did. We take diagrams underwater, we do all that stuff underwater, and then I do a report up, it's all given to me, and I send it to that agency. So they have the complete picture of what we found. But it is a law enforcement issue.
So you work with all the agencies then, not just Washington County Sheriff's Department?
Yes, we work for any agency that requests our help. St. George, Washington, we've gone and helped Washington find a 17-year-old runaway girl that was suicidal. Okay, we did that at the end of last year. But it's their call. We're there to assist them. We helped with an Alzheimer's patient here in St. George a couple months ago. But it's their incident. We go to their incident command and we say, we're here. I have 23 guys. Where do you want us to search? We're answering to them as far as what they want. So, yeah, we work with everybody. Even though she's gone, yes, because we have divers in the water, and if any of them get injured, I want to get treatment to them as rapidly and as fast as possible. So, and I'm an advanced EMT, so I already had all the equipment in my truck anyway, and I was there the whole time. And I had another EMR that was there. So we had medical people there. If our people got hurt, we could immediately get on them, call for an ambulance or call for a helicopter if we got to fly them and get them out.
Yeah, can you give us an idea of the 50 missions? How many people are stuck on ledges? How many got caught in the mud? How many, just a rough idea.
Rough idea of the 50 missions, we probably had 10 or so that were up on Kolob. Okay, and it was some people from this county and some people not from this county. Most of them were not. So that's 20% of our missions right there. The majority have been people being ledged up. We probably have had 8 or 10 more ledged up. We've had another 10 to 15 that were lost. They were out hiking and became lost. And the rest of them were people who were injured. Mountain bikers getting injured, people hiking getting injured, people falling when on rappels. You know, a little bit more serious stuff. One gentleman in April went down on a hike out on West Mountain with a bunch of people. He was with a youth group trying out to be a counselor, and he went down coming back from a hike at midnight, and they called in, and we had to drive out there, find him, hike up you know, it was a half a mile line of sight, but it's a lot longer when you're actually hiking up the, and his was dehydration in April. It wasn't that hot, but he had been hiking all day and was not taking in enough water. So that kind of just gives you an idea. It's just like a smattering of things, but the majority have been mountain bikers, hikers, climbers, I would have to say, other than the people up on Kolob. So, does that help you? Okay. Of the rescued victims in Washington County, approximately 65% are non-residents of the county. So, the majority of people we end up helping are not from this county. They're here visiting. They're here to recreate. They're here to, go out and mountain bike this area or hike this area, and that's just the way it is with, when you have all the great stuff we have. I mean, really, why would you not? But it is. A lot of them are not residents. We don't have as many problems with the residents because they live here and they know what they're going into when they're going out. So, the members of the teams have donated over 33,000 hours on searches in Washington County since 1998. So that's how many man-hours that these search and rescue members have put in to the community. Okay, and that's a lot of man-hours. And that doesn't include all their training hours, I'm sure. No. The sheriff does not believe in charging for search and rescue because he's afraid that it might delay somebody calling in. Oh, I can't afford this. I can't pay for this. And we don't want him to get worse off. So we never charge for search and rescue. That is always there. I mean, the county could, but I've not ever heard of it. Yes.
Where does the money come from that you get reimbursed?
The $20,000 operating budget, that is public money that comes from the county to the sheriff's office in his budget, it's in his budget, and we get reimbursed on that money that we spend, of public money. We can only be reimbursed for public money. Any donated money, anything like that cannot be reimbursed. Okay, so that's where that reimbursement comes from, is money the county already spent that was public money. This basically goes over how the fund is operated. It comes from the registration of your ATVs and watercraft and stuff. That's where the money comes from. We submit requests and stuff, but part of this program is no county can charge for search and rescue to be able to participate in the reimbursement program. So they're obviously not going to reimburse something you already got paid back on or you billed for. This goes through just the protocols of how to call out search and rescue, which is part of this presentation I gave. This was for Zion National Park. Obviously, for most people, dial 911. And I'm telling you that seriously. Dial 911 if you are injured or need help, because they will pull a GPS coordinate off of your phone and then sit down and wait for us. Don't move, because we have your GPS coordinate and that's where we're coming. And if you end up moving a half a mile, then we're going to be trying to keep up after you or track you. Okay, so once you call for help and they have a GPS coordinate, just wait. And this is who I am, Deputy Darrell Cashin. This is my cell number, my email. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to give me a call. I have no problems with that. Obviously, I get called at 3 in the morning all the time, but don't do that. Or, send me an email or something.